let's have a look at domestic markets before we turn to some of the big hurdles that might be facing shippers later this year. Jason, we've discussed previously that we've had this domestic freight market recession in the US, as people have been calling it. Looking at some of the latest trucking data, it seems we're seeing that market pick up in the last month or so with DAT's dry van spot rate across the top 50 lanes in the US, um, tracking 2023 rates, but miles off 2022 and 2021. Good news for freight buyers, of course. Will we see this dial move at all in sync with shipping import rates as those equipment networks into ports are stretched? Or is all this really down to primarily domestic industrial movement and normal seasonality?
Yeah, so I look at it this way. So June has always been for DATS data, typically a nice rise. And to put it in perspective, 2017 it was like 10 to 11 cents per mile higher than May. 2018 it was 18 cents higher than May. 2019, a down year, it was 10 cents higher in June than May. And so far we are 3 cents higher this year in 2024. So this, even though it's up, this is actually weak on a seasonal basis. At the end of the day, containerized imports are a small percent of what gets moved. And an easy way to think about this is in 2023, Pierce tells us we imported 24 million TEUs in the United States. That's TEUs. Let's say 2 TEUs equals 1 truckload of freight. That's even being generous, but that gets us to 12 million. Now assume, and Jess can maybe confirm this, roughly about a third of containerized imports really don't leave the broader metro area in which they come. I mean, if it comes into Southern California through LA or Long Beach, about a third of that stays in Southern California because a lot of people live in Southern California. And conveniently, our ports are in major metro areas that are major sources of consumer demand. So that gives us 8 million truckloads of freight to move inland. Well, the class ones gobble up at least half of that on a mileage basis, at least half of that on intermodal. That gives us about 4 million truckloads of long haul inland containerized imports. Domestic manufacturers generate 100 million truckloads a year of containerized imports, just for, or 100 million truckloads a year of freight, not of containerized imports, but domestic manufacturers make 100 million truckloads of freight. 4 million, 100 million. We can have 10% higher here. That gives us 400,000 extra. I can shave 1% off of this and I lose 1 million. And that's what we're experiencing right now. Historically, what has happened is containerized imports tend to trend strongly up year over year. At the same time, manufacturing output is trending up year over year. We've kind of broken that pattern so far in 24. We also broke that in 2015, believe it or not. And 2015 was a soft freight market. And so the two historical times where we've seen domestic manufacturing down year over year, but imports up, we've had bearish markets. And so for me, it's all about domestic manufacturing. And there's nothing really encouraging right now out there. The one sector that's doing a little better is plastic production, which generates a lot of freight. But I'll tell you, I do increasingly have some concerns that I don't know how much longer we can stay at record levels in motor vehicle and parts production, just given where consumers are at. And so there could be offsetting forces there. But it's hard to get excited right now when I see primary metal production, steel and aluminum and things like that today is down 7% from 2017, and 2017 was down 8% from 2014. And so in sector after sector in manufacturing, you can see output today is below where it was before COVID in sectors like machinery, below where it was in 2012 and 2014. So I'm just not encouraged from a demand standpoint right now that we're going to see that type of positive shock that we need to get us out of this current sort of trough that we're in.